what are some obstacles that you're facing right now that you probably were not aware of when you started?
Yeah. So in one sentence, it would just be filtering the noise, and more specifically the people noise, because as I've gotten really involved in just different local entrepreneur spaces and communities and organizations, there's a lot of people who will talk and not a lot of people who will do. And so I've figured out it's kind of the 2 or 3 month mark when you've known someone, where you kind of start to get an idea of, hey, is this someone who's reliable, who I can count on, who will actually follow up their words with actions, and who aren't. And I mean, you can still have those people in your life and in your circle, and they'll show up to things, but it's really figuring out who to let in kind of your inner circle, because you can waste a lot of time and also a lot of money if you're putting it towards the wrong people. And it's a hard lesson to learn. Also, I try and think the best of everyone and come into every situation with a positive outlook, but that's not always how reality is.
Look, hell of an intro. I tell you what you info, but I never really been the type of dude to give no info. But if you see your ends low and you trying to get a benzo, I'll give your ass some game that'll change the way that you think, bro. Super skilled with the pencil, super ill in my mental. I reminisce on life, I'm nice, here's my memento. Get it through your tempo, I get on any tempo and give it all I got. I'm hot, I got like 10 flows, trying to live on the 10th floor, across from residentials that I own. My mind stayed grown, I used to think clothes, I really used to think hoes and what I do to get those, and then I switched it up. I'm only
Welcome to another episode of the Walk and Grow podcast. Today we have another special honorable woman in the building who is doing a lot of awesome things. Yeah, we have Madeline in our house today, and she's here to share wonderful stories about some important project that she's working on for our community and just for people in general. We're in the business of solving problem, and this is one wonderful woman who is here solving problem for us in general. So I'm going to open it to her and to kind of just, tell us a little bit about herself. I met her through a networking event, and it was a great experience. We talked about, a few important things, and I realized, this woman is actually doing something that, that's worth, shining a light on. So why not, take this opportunity to shine the light on, what you're working on. So if you don't mind just sharing with our audience, what you're all about.
Yeah, so I mean, you mentioned we met at a networking event, and a lot of people I know now also could probably say that they met me at a networking event also, because what I do is network and really help people get connected. And we're doing that by developing ways to make those connections and access those connections. So I developed a platform called SKANZ on a very basic level. Think digital business card. So a very easy way to transfer your contact information to whoever you might want to have your information, whether it be someone you meet at a business networking event or some hot person at a bar. So you never know when you want to make a connection.
Right.
And so we really developed this platform with, one-on-one connections are great and very valuable, but how do we kind of take it to that next level? And the answer was business networking events, and creating a way for everyone who is within those 4 walls or, virtually online to get connected with each other in a way that they can stay connected. And by creating, a list of attendees that's accessible to them at any point in time, and then also they can provide whatever information they want other people to have. So we kind of have been launching that in the last couple of months, doing test events, really focusing on development of the platform, really seeing what people want and what people need, and then trying to meet them where they're at.
So are you telling me that I can go to a networking event? Because you mentioned a list. I'm just trying to understand what that list looks like. So are you telling me I can walk into a networking event and I literally have all the contact info of everybody in that room, and I don't literally have to talk to everybody?
Yep. So how it works is the organization will make the event a SKANZ event, and what happens is they'll have a code that people scan to check in when they get there, and then if they don't have a SKANZ account, they can easily create one in under 30 seconds, and then if they do, they just sign in check into the event, and then on their connections tab, they'll be able to see that event. So that's another big part of it, is giving context for your connections. So now you know where you met them and when you met them.
Yeah.
And then when you click on that event, you'll see the list of all the other people who have also checked into that event. And the information that you see on there is whatever they've put in their SKANZ profile. So it can be very minimal. It could be like a picture and an email, and like that's it, or just your LinkedIn, or just your website, or it could be everything. So my SKANZ profile has pretty much every social media, website, email I own. So it's really up to you to put your information on there. But when you're doing that, you're essentially telling people how you want to be contacted.
Right.
So you're saying, hey, if I put my LinkedIn on there, I want you to connect with me over LinkedIn. Or if I put my email on there, like, email me, which is, a little old school, but it's saying this, this is what I'm giving to you, hopefully do with it as you not do anything crazy with it, but it's saying, hey, I'm open to connections.
Yeah.
And so
it's just like LinkedIn, when you go on LinkedIn and you can see certain information.
Exactly. So you can put your LinkedIn on your SKANZ profile, but not everyone uses LinkedIn, right? And so it's just really kind of, again, meeting people where they're at.
So would you say it's, sorry, I know that you're about to say something, but would you say it's fair to say that this is great for introverts?
Yes, it is a good way. We do have the option on your SKANZ profile. You can put a little more information about, there's a bio section. And so, put like what you're working on, what you're looking for. And that way, when after the event, when you're going back through and looking at other people's profiles, you can really try and identify, hey, I want to reach out and connect to like these two people. Because if you're an introvert, you don't have the emotional or social capacity to meet 30 different people. And so it's trying to hone in on, all right, these, are the one or two people I really think there could be a potential connection.
Right.
And then giving the ability to reach out and say, hey, let's meet for coffee. Hey, let's have a, a Zoom. Or
it's a great
whatever.
Conversation starter too. Yeah. Like if you don't know what, one thing that puts you and the other person, the common ground, like if you don't know what that is, just look at the profile. Exactly. If it's there, then it's definitely an easy way for you to identify, like, hey, this is a good person. And even if they don't have anything there, if they have any of their socials, hey, just take a quick look really quickly and say, find something a common ground there, and then start that conversation. Oh, no, I love it.
Exactly. And the context can also give you the ability to connect and say, hey, I was at this event also. Right, I didn't get the chance to meet you in person, and I think we should get connected. Right. And then it's not just another random person messaging you on LinkedIn or emailing you or whatever.
Or a robot.
It's saying, yes, exactly.
Yeah, I like the idea. It interests me on so many levels, but I'm also curious to know, like, where did inspiration come from? Where did that idea come from?
Yeah.
Because I feel like you were faced in a scenario where it came up to you and you're like, hey, let me run with it.
Yeah. So the OG SKANZ was not as magnificent and well thought out. It actually started, the idea came one day. I was having dinner with another potential grad student and one of our faculty members, and I just seen a viral video of someone who got a tattoo of a QR code. And I know y'all can't see their faces, but they're pretty good right now.
I hope that QR code is the best QR code. Like, I mean,
exactly. And so I was like, well, that's great. How could you have the novelty of that without the commitment? So I thought why couldn't you make a temporary tattoo?
You got a QR code.
Yeah. So
that's funny.
Yeah. I think it also went to like a YouTube video, the whole Rickroll. Yeah, it was great. And so I went home that night and ordered a temporary tattoo of a QR code. And
so you did it too?
Well, temporary. I forget to say that sometimes. Some people, they have this look on their face where they're like, you did what? And I'm like, yeah, Mom. Yeah. So went home, ordered one, came in like a week later. It worked. My next thought was, all right, now I want to be able to control what you see when you scan this code. And so instead of, finding another platform to do it, which I had used another platform to generate my code at the time. And then they went and charged me like, it was like $60 or $100, which was ridiculous. So I was like, all right, I'm just going to go spend thousands of dollars and develop my own platform, right? Exactly. Save $50, spend, I know my parents are like, what were you thinking? And actually, so that was the birth of SKANZ, and the name, really came from the combination of scan and skin. Mm-hmm. So, there was a SKANZ company about 10 years ago that did exist, and I promise I did not steal their name. I found them after, and that was awkward.
They dissolved it. It doesn't matter.
Wait, did they come to you? Did they reach out to you about the name?
No. Good. I had a meeting with the former CEO, and he's like, I just want to tell you I didn't steal your
company
idea.
Is no longer here, though, right?
No.
Yeah, so it doesn't matter. It's free game. Do what you got to do.
Oh, yeah. It's a great name. Some people misread it occasionally, but that's their problem. But the original kind of idea behind it with kind of QR code technology and that easy transfer of information came a couple years before that, actually. So my background is more academic. If y'all didn't know, I am a current PhD student, and so I've had a lot of involvement in kind of professional organizations and going to conferences. And I mean, conferences are a great space for business cards, and who doesn't have business cards? It's students. And so, we're going to these things wanting to connect with people and just not getting those connections. Right. So that was part of it. And then the other part of it was just my fascination with how much information you could put in a QR code if you had the right tool to do that. If someone had a poster presentation, they could simplify that presentation and then put a QR code that linked to additional, a PowerPoint or a paper or contact information, so you could talk with the author. And just the idea of, again, we're there to make those connections. That way we can act on those when we leave that room or convention or wherever you're at.
Yeah.
And then SKANZ was born, and it kind of, developed into digital business card. And then, again, more than one-on-one connections developed into, my goal is to make it the networking platform. So
that's a great goal to go about it, because we live in an area where, relationship is it's really a currency now. So it's important to be able to network with people, and you're finding ways to make it more creative. We appreciate you for that. And I had a question that came up to me last night, literally. I was talking to somebody about a project that we're working on, and I thought maybe SKANZ can be a good opportunity for this. And I'm bringing this up just because, you're here, so I can ask you right now.
Sounds like a pitch to me.
No, it's not a pitch, but I just want to know if, in terms of this idea, does it make sense, and can it be used for it? In the past, when you have an art portrait on a wall, you will have to flip in the back to see who made it. So I'm just thinking, with SKANZ, is it possible to have to get a modern version of that, where we can get in contact with the artist? Can we, is that a possibility with your platform? Yeah,
and I love that you brought that up, because I actually had a conversation about this last weekend. Not specifically for artists, but also musicians. Gotcha. Anyway, again, it's more than a digital business card, because it's more than you could put on a traditional business card, right? For musicians, for artists, you can put links to your music, your YouTube videos, your websites, all of that on there. And it's just a great way for people, like you said, to get connected. Yeah, you have a piece of art on the wall, you put your code up there, and then again, you can update that in real time. Exactly. Your code never changes. Yep. So as your art sells and goes, or you have new things or new events, you're continuously updating that, and then yes, it's accessible for everyone. Yeah. And while we're really targeting for the events, business networking organizations, a big portion of our current users are actually small businesses or small business owners who are using it as a way, just like you said, to get connected with potential customers and get their information out there. Yeah,
that's awesome. It's good to know, and I'll make sure to pass it on to the person who asked me that question, and so, and also pass it on to anybody who needs to know. Another aspect to that is, okay, it's a business, yes, it involves a lot, pieces to it, and I'm sure you've gotten to a point where, like, hey, you've been thrown a curveball because you're facing some obstacles. What are some obstacles that you're facing right now that you probably were not aware of when you started?
Yeah. So in one sentence, it would just be filtering the noise, and more specifically the people noise, because as I've gotten really involved in just different local entrepreneur spaces and communities and organizations, there's a lot of people who will talk and not a lot of people who will do. And so I've figured out it's kind of the 2 or 3 month mark when you've known someone, where you kind of start to get an idea of, hey, is this someone who's reliable, who I can count on, who will actually follow up their words with actions, and who aren't. And I mean, you can still have those people in your life and in your circle, and they'll show up to things, but it's really figuring out who to let in kind of your inner circle, because you can waste a lot of time and also a lot of money if you're putting it towards the wrong people. And it's a hard lesson to learn. Also, I try and think the best of everyone and come into every situation with a positive outlook, but that's not always how reality is.
We had this conversation this week with someone else. We'll be releasing this podcast. What do you think? This week, next one, or you think
in 2 weeks? We're releasing in 2 weeks. Yeah, so
it's one that I definitely think that literally talks about that and how that person solved that issue. And that could be a really good point. I'm have to leave you guys on the cliffhanger. I have to, because it's only right if I, just share that, so that when you guys do hear that episode, it will be 2 episodes.
I think it will be fine, because that episode is releasing before this one, so it will be fine to talk about it now.
Yeah. You're right. You're actually right. Yeah. No, you're actually right.
So you could go ahead and just and bring that up as well.
So we actually spoke to Maggie Kane, who is she's the owner of A Place at the Table. And we spoke to her about, like, hey, how did you manage to bring all these people together to bring this to pretty much A Place at the Table to fruition? How did you do that? Because we know you can't do this by yourself. I mean, anything you do in life, you shouldn't really look to do it by yourself. And she literally said it's the mission. What is your mission? What is it that you're essentially trying to achieve? What is it what does that thing look like? And does everybody understand it? If the people don't understand it, then that's when that's when they start doing things and it doesn't make sense. You start looking at them sideways. You start putting question marks on top of their heads. You start looking like, damn, did I make this? Was that a good decision overall? But overall, it was really just that mission aspect, and that really stuck to me, because, again, anything I do, I don't really want to do it by myself. Sometimes I don't want to do it at all. I'd much rather have somebody do it instead. So that one part stuck to me a lot, and I hope anyone listening to this, you really take that aspect of it and just really have your mission down, what you're trying to accomplish, down and pack, so that whenever you do meet someone that is, of course, you're like, maybe this person could be a good asset to the team. Identify it. Do they even fit with your mission? And if they do, then run with it. If they don't, then maybe you sit down and, wait to see a little bit more and learn a little bit more about the person before you taking that leap of faith and trusting them with responsibility they may not be ready for.
Yeah. I like what you said about, it's stressful. That 2 to 3 months, it's time, energy, it's just... you're committing to something you don't even know if it's gonna work, and if we all wish we could be saved, all that time. And to us, we experienced it with the podcast as well. It's hard to have people take action when they don't know what you're working towards. So if they don't understand it, they will know what you have, they will see it, but it's like they don't see it. In a way, so
they can't see it's essentially your vision.
Right.
Again, this podcast, our vision. We have to share that vision with you for you to see it through our eyes. And it may not be all clear, but hey, at least we were able to share with you something that that makes sense to you at the moment. And
that's when you find people start to take action, whether it's to subscribe, to follow, or to share it. Is when they understand the mission.
And make sure you guys are doing that.
Yeah. And I'm assuming it's the same concept with any other project. When people buying into it, when they emotionally get involved with the idea.
Yeah. For sure. But, the other thing I would say is also figure out what resources are available to you. I I know I'm in a unique position as a student. I have access to a lot of free resources, but there's tons of free resources for people who are also not students, right? And so it's really looking at your local community. There's all kinds of different organizations and people who are literally given money to help you do things. And so just really making sure you're not missing any of those resources. And I mean, there's also people that come along with those, but just really positioning yourself with the people you have around you, with the resources you're using to be successful, and then putting in the work and stop talking so much. Not right now, but later.
But and with that talking, that work, putting in the work and talking, that involves balance. Do you feel as though you found like a good balance between being a student and
no such thing.
being a student, living your life, traveling and all these, additional things that life throws at us? Do you feel as though you kind of found a sweet spot, or you're still working towards that? We're all humans, so.
Yeah, I think I've found a pretty sweet spot. I've noticed that when I've met other kind of early stage founders who work 9 to 5s, there's a lot more or a lot less flexibility that they have. And so as a student, I mean, I don't necessarily have to be in an office from 9 to 5. I can work remotely. I can work in different cities, if I'm traveling. I can also work till 2 a.m. if that's what happens, which happens more than you think. But there's a lot of flexibility in my schedule that allows me to do what I need to do for school, but also do what I need to do to grow the business. Which a lot of that right now is showing up to events.
Right.
So I have the flexibility to go to a bunch of different events and meet people and join different clubs and really be active in those communities. That way, when people say my name to other people, they're like, oh wait, I know her also. Right. And it's really cool because I've made it a point to also get involved in not just like Raleigh, but I've started branching out to Durham and also just the different types of organizations, because I do see some divisions in those. Like you'll see the same people at some events and the same people at other events, but there's not a ton of cross-pollination. And so I try to be the cross-pollinator, I guess, and really touching each of these different communities. And then with SKANZ, it's really then bringing all of those together. Yeah. So it's the network of networks, the ultimate, connection. So, but yes, back to your question, work-life balance, essentially. Life is what you design it to be.
That's the best answer
I will tell you, I am a huge fan of credit cards. Well, I love shopping also and doing my nails and all that, but also maximizing on rewards. And so a lot of the travel I do for free because, so there's ways of doing it. Again, if you're resourceful, if you have friends, and I mean, if someone were to ask me, girl, how are you flying like 4 different places in 3 weeks? I'd be like, because I have this shiny credit card that gives me all these points. And, during COVID, all I was doing was racking up points. So, there's ways to do it. And, when it comes to school and work, and really looking for opportunities for professional development as well, whether it be going to conferences and stuff. I mentioned to y'all earlier, most of my travel is part business and part pleasure. And so, if I'm going on a trip and someone else is paying for it, even better. And I'm getting, a great experience, connections or whatever out of that. That's, just an added bonus.
That's awesome. Yeah. And now, do you, you've been doing this traveling, this journey. How long have you been on this journey again?
Yeah, so SKANZ officially was incorporated on, what day is it? A year ago today.
Oh, nice.
May 5th. Yep. So it's Cinco de SKANZO. So mark that in your calendars. Yeah. The idea came in, I think it was like April of last year. And so I, took a couple weeks to get that done. But yeah, so it's officially been 1 year of SKANZ. And then
look at that.
I came to Raleigh in 2020. So I'm still new. And again, that's the best way to also get involved when you move somewhere new is to really get out there and be active in your community, which was hard during COVID, mind you. So that was a big challenge as well.
Yeah. It speaks a lot about your hard work and your dedication doing this, because it's something that you started right when COVID started, and you're still going at it. I can only imagine the amount of people that started something at the beginning of COVID, and it's probably no longer.
It was kind of right in the middle.
Yeah.
It was my COVID baby.
That's a good one. You mentioned something though that I kind of want to shine a light on. You said you're going to at least 2 to 3 networking events a week.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right?
Yeah.
How are you finding these networking events?
Yeah. So, again, what I did, my very first one I think it was last June or July, I literally went to Eventbrite and was like, business networking events, and found a Rockstar Connect event. They have those monthly. Trying to get them to use SKANZ.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Did you go to the one in Bright Creek?
Morrisville.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a ton of those.
Yeah, there's a ton.
I've been to a few.
Yeah, I know. So that was my first, and then I mentioned through NC State, I'm part of their entrepreneur clinic, and they work with a local co-working space called Raleigh Founded, and Raleigh Founded hosts a bunch of events. So I just saw an event posted and showed up, and then they were like, oh, we have another one next. They'll put it on their social media, and literally the first step is showing up. Like, find something and show up, and it just takes one, because from that one, you'll make the connections and you'll get the invites to the next one. The other thing I did was I did join a business club. That's where I met Francis, actually. And just, again, putting yourself in environments and situations to meet people and have those kind of opportunities. But yeah, they host pretty regular events. Again, most different organizations and communities host events. It's just a matter of like following them on social media. Set a notification for when they post or But I do think there is a lack of one kind of singular point to get all the information for events. So like I used Eventbrite, but not everything's on Eventbrite. A lot is on Eventbrite. However, Eventbrite's used for everything. So that's one thing we're looking at with SKANZ is, hey, if we have all these different organizations and events on our platform, we could put all of that in one place. Right. And with individual permissions, of course, organizations would have control to make events public. So when you say, hey, what networking events are going on in Raleigh this week, you go to SKANZ and you already have an account, and then you see what events there are. You could show up to the event, and then when you show up to that event, you will get connected with everyone else at that event.
No, I like that. I like that a lot.
That's a great idea.
Yeah. Jeez.
I don't see how that can,
Yeah, no,
it's needed right now.
It is. It truly is. However, you mentioned commitment. You obviously had to make a commitment to go to that first Rockstar event. Was it an easy commitment for you to make, or was it a tough one? And why?
Honestly, a lot of the times I have events, there's like this moment before the event where I'm like, I don't really feel like going. Yeah. Like I want to go home and put on my sweatpants and like make dinner. And it's funny because some of the events that I've wanted to go to the least have been the best ones. Like you leave and you're like, oh my gosh, I am so thankful I went. And some of the best ones are also the ones where you only talk to 2 people, right? Because you got into a really great conversation. And that's also where SKANZ comes in, where it's like, I met these 2 people and they were awesome, but how many other connections could have been in that room that I missed? So yeah, it is hard, and I still struggle with that sometimes. And so sometimes if I know I have an event later in the day, I will get dressed in my dress and blazer that morning and, just make it as frictionless as possible to show up. And, again, it's showing up. That's the first step.
Is there something that you would say that pushes you to continuously, hey, even when you don't want to go, or even when you don't want to do something, to continuously, hey, I'm just gonna do it anyways?
It's gotta be SKANZ.
It's just like working out. The hardest part is going to the gym. And as I'm telling that to you, I'm also telling it to me because I need to go to the gym. But like once you're there and you're doing it, you never regret it. Like you never regret it unless maybe you get like food poisoning or something. Right. Like I don't know. But most of the time it's that like the feeling you have after, and then the next event you don't want to go to. I'm like, okay, remember that last event and the connections I made. And then you start running into people you know. That's the best part. Actually, I think when I met Francis, I didn't even have to introduce myself. Someone else introduced me.
Oh, wow. Look at that.
For me. And so you start to build a community. And so it's fun to go to events. You know, then I'll know other people going to those events, and it becomes like, hey, are you going to such and such event? And that makes it a lot better, because it's not just you singularly showing up randomly. It might be that first one, but again, that first one will lead to that next one, because someone you meet there will say, hey, we're having another event next week you should come to. And then it just gets the ball rolling, and then you have a familiar face, and it makes that also easier, because then people will text you if you don't show up. Say, yo, where? And I've done that to other people. I've said, you said you were coming, and I didn't see you. Like, I hope someone died. I mean, what's your excuse?
But that's good, because then you're creating like accountability partner in that environment. You know, you're not only sharing the same mission or same views and principle, but now you're holding each other accountable. So that's good. One thing that I don't know, I'm speaking from personal experience here. Networking events can be overwhelming. Depending on which one you go, and I found that for me, having a game plan of like structure of like what I want to do when I'm there helps me for like those overwhelming networking event where there's just like everybody everywhere, because you also want to keep track of like what you brought to the table and the stuff that you want to talk about, because we're all there to offer be a service to somebody else. So when it gets overwhelming, I just want to I'm speaking to the audience here, don't let that deter you from going. Still go, but have some sort of structure on who you want to talk to and who you want to network with, and then block out the noise, quote unquote. But
and I mean, you're even pointing out why SKANZ is so valuable in those situations, because you go to those and you don't meet everyone. It can be awkward. I've had very awkward situations, not extremely, but it's people and it's life. And yes, having a game plan is great, but sometimes the game plan is saying my goal is to talk to 2 people.
Exactly. It could be that simple. Literally.
The other thing I've started, and it's started to catch, is I always try and have some sort of conversation starter, and it generally is my nails or my hair or my shoes, which I know y'all are guys, so you don't. I mean, you probably have fire shoes and stuff, but it's also, because think about it, you're trying to talk to other people, but they're also trying to talk to you. So how do you get past that awkward, like you made eye contact and you don't really know what's going on.
I'm literally just painting it right now.
Literally. So many scenarios I can think of where it happened.
And there's little groups. You're like, do I join that group or do I like go over there? And it can be very awkward. And so I think, so my nails before this were gold. I probably started 20 different conversations with those nails. It was ridiculous, because people, men and women, were just like, oh my gosh, your nails. And it's a great icebreaker. Then you talk about other stuff, or I have a sparkly shoe thing going on too. So I've started to get known for that as well. But I mean, it doesn't have to be something crazy and expensive like that, but just try and think from the other person's perspective. Like, I mean, you're pretty tall. Like, you could be very intimidating. So find a way to like, you're making yourself more accessible to people, and say, hey, like, I want to talk to you. I want to meet you. Like, I won't,
I know, like, when I go to networking events, my key thing when I'm trying to speak to someone, I'll find something in common, again, always. Or if I can't find that in person and at the moment, I'll just compliment them. And that's it. It's, for instance, exactly what was going on. You started 20 conversations for your gold nails. Everybody complimented you, and
now I can write it off as a business expense. Just kidding. I get leads from these babies.
It's the complimenting. I mean, I think that's been my trick, at least. I'll find a way to compliment. It drops everybody's like shield, that wall, immediately down. And then they'll start to look for something to compliment you on. It always happens. It happens just like that. And then the conversation just goes from one point to the next.
To the other,
I have, someone did tell me once, compliment people on things that they control. So, it's a little weird with like bodily features. Like I know eyes are a big thing, but you don't always have control over eyes. But like if something you dress, like nails, that's a choice that I made, or you know, the shirt you put on, and kind of really like, because I've had moments where I've gotten dressed in the morning, I'm like, I look so weird, or like this doesn't quite fit right, and then I'll get a compliment on it, and I'm like, oh shit, I actually look great.
Yeah.
Oh, I just gotta
No, you're good. You're good.
But you know, and yes, you are right. It boosts your confidence. You then you're like, oh, and then you're like, oh, well, I love your pants. Like, you know, and it sparks a whole,
it gets going.
A whole conversation. So.
Yeah, that's true. What's your conversation starter? Wow.
I don't have any. I don't have a script, man. I promise you, it's on the fly, man.
Yeah.
That's just how I operate. I don't.
But if you needed one, like if you needed like you're stuck, you just somebody just come up to you, boom, what do you have?
Hey, how's it going? Like, I mean, you can't go wrong with, hey, how's it going? Because then if they say
you're in a relationship, you would not go far on dating apps.
But no, it's, hey, how you going? Hey, how are you doing? And if you tell me good, oh, okay, well, what's making it a good day? Like, is there something you can share with me that's making it such a good day? Or if you're having a bad day, oh, what's going on? I mean, I'm an ear, right? It's always listening. I mean, when you go to these networking events, and at least for myself, when I go, yes, I want to share as much as possible, but I am there to listen because I can listen more than I speak, and I'm more than happy to do so. Everyone at these events, everybody wants to speak. Go ahead, speak, man. Let me hear everything you have. Please say everything, because then that allows me to then, as we even have a conversation today, I mean, as we're having these conversations, prior to us actually being live, I was literally giving you questions on the fly.
Yeah.
Right. It's just
you have to be flexible.
Yeah, you have to be. Yeah. You do. Yeah. I approach it completely different. I don't know why, but it's just something that I guess I grew up that way. I observe before I approach. So let's say we could be in a group.
So you're judging people?
No, I'm because
I had to.
Well, yeah, of course, I know you will do that. So by observing people, I just know how to start a conversation at that point, because like we'll be in a group like this talking, and I'm looking at the other group and see how certain, who do I want to talk to. If I already identify who I want to talk to, I know how they're moving, and I'll go there and, if it's complimenting something they're wearing, like we were talking, I'll do that. If I overheard something they said, that was good, I will, pick up on that.
Yep.
But I like to observe before making, any action or decision. Yeah. Yeah,
but I do love what you said about, asking about their day. I had a business coach a while back, or like a not so much business, but just life. And my favorite thing was actually just taking a moment to say, hey, what went good this week? What didn't go good? What were some high points and low points? And even, specifically for that day, like, what's going on in your life? Not even business related. Someone might say, oh, like, my daughter had her first recital today, and that's a great thing to just open up a conversation. Or what didn't go so great, and then it's just and people are a lot more willing to share when prompted than you would think. Right. And I love personally hearing about other people's lives, and especially in kind of the business and even the school environment. People are so just like work business all the time, and I'm like, I want to hear about your life too. Yeah. Like, what'd you make for dinner last night? Exactly. Like, share your recipe. Yeah. Like, I had a guy in our group who had gotten engaged, and nobody knew because I was like, I want to celebrate with you, and when the times are tough, like you want to, be there with them too, but. That's what it's all about. Yeah.
People want to be spoken to. People want to be spoken to. People want others to speak to them. People want to share the stuff that's going on in their life. So you may look at somebody and be like, that person doesn't look approachable. For all you know, that person probably is the best person to approach.
But they're also there. So I told that to a friend of mine. Yes, at different events and things. It's like if they didn't want to be talked to, they would have stayed home. Exactly. They're there for the same reason you are. And so it's putting yourself in their shoes also. If you were standing there by yourself with a drink, like super awkward, if someone came up to you and started talking to you, you'd probably love it. You'd be like, great, yay, someone else took that initiative. And so, flip the script.
And this is all for the drinkers and that's listening right now.
The drinkers?
The drinkers.
This is for the drinkers. If somebody has a drink in their hand and you don't know how to approach them, hey, what's in your drink?
Yeah, that's
Done.
true.
Conversation started.
Oh
You're
my-
gonna go from one point to the next.
Yeah.
It's just like that.
Yeah, food and drink are great ways to connect with
connect,
people.
yeah.
You find, the coffee lovers, the
Yep.
vodka lovers,
Yep.
the Thai lovers.
Tequila lovers. Cinco de Mayo today. I'm probably gonna go get some margarita.
It is.
Hey, it's Cinco de Scanzo. Yes.
There you go.
That's very appropriate.
Yeah, it's the perfect timing. I didn't even know. Like, look at the timing of everything. Like, it's been a
Right.
year, and then,
I actually, I didn't even think of that until literally I was like, wait.
yeah.
Because, I've been gone the last week. I don't
Yeah.
even know what day it was
Yeah.
until I just checked. But no, that's awesome.
It's a perfect time to kind of reflect on like the year. Like, how do you see it? Like, from where you started and the progress that you've made so far, and where you're trying to take it. It's how do you feel overall yourself about
Yeah.
like how things are going?
So the SKANZ as it is now, I would say was only probably thought of about 6 to 8 months ago when I really started getting out there. The OG SKANZ was more of a, hey, this is really cool. Put a QR code on a temporary tattoo or whatever, and let's build a platform. And there's been a lot of evolution and just the process of building it out. And I contract out my development. I don't personally do it myself, but I have to tell them, hey, this is how it's going to work. And we've also revised that. Probably, don't ask them.
Countless times.
Yeah, they're gonna tell you it's a pain in the ass.
But that's how you get a good product. Yeah.
So like we built out, hey, like this is how we want to do events. And then you actually start going to events and doing things and saying, hey, this process is too lengthy or this process isn't efficient. And you really go back and say, all right, what can we do differently? And so just the evolution over the last year has been really neat to look back. And I have photos when it first started of the QR code tattoo. I wore one on my arm for like months. I thought that was the coolest thing. And now really kind of where I've also grown personally too. Yep. Like, I'm here doing this. Like, if you would have told me a year ago, like, you're going to be doing podcasts, I'd be like, what? But just the connections you make and the people you meet. Right. And then again, our tool specifically was designed to help facilitate that. And, now I see it as kind of my role of, hey, if I'm building this tool, then I need to set the example. Right. And so, that evolution has been crazy, and also through COVID, right? Because it started in COVID. So seeing the transition from kind of that COVID, not a lot of like people are worried about going out, to now events are ramping back up, and timing wise it's actually perfect. Number one, everyone knows how to use QR codes, including like your grandparents, or else they couldn't eat at restaurants, right? And now's the time where people really want to get connected again. Like, I love the flexibility of working remotely, but I hate the isolation. Right. And so people are really looking for new ways of doing things and are really open to that. And so the timing actually has been great in the last year, and just seeing that evolution has been really cool.
What's the final, like in terms, when you close your eyes, you see SKANZ working, you're sitting back relaxing right now because everything is done. What does that look like to you?
Like what SKANZ looks like, or what I look like? Because
No.
I'm seeing like a beach and like a Mai Tai.
Yeah, exactly. So you're in that position, and and SKANZ is good. You have that peace of mind that SKANZ is working for you the way you want it to work. What does so far, based off of what what does that look like?
So strategically, if you think about it, if SKANZ really grows into the ultimate networking platform and like facilitating those connections and connecting organizations, that's also my network. I know pretty much all the users on there currently, or if I didn't know them, I've connected with them. So the next step, I'll probably be on the beach for a little while, but is really then taking everything I've learned in this process and the people and the resources and putting it into the next thing. So it's not like, oh, I want to retire at 30 and go sit on the beach forever. And I mentioned, again, I'm doing my PhD in nuclear engineering, and what really would be cool in my mind is if my experience now as an entrepreneur and startup founder met my technical skills and a nuclear engineer to potentially be involved in a nuclear startup at some point. And there's a lot of those have sprung up in the last several years. So it will all come together. And I'm trying to enjoy the process and not be so focused on that end goal, but I can see kind of a lot of those pieces slowly working themselves into place, and that's also been really cool to watch.
That's awesome. Do you I'm assuming you celebrate the small wins in between while you're going?
Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah. Buy the chips, and I currently I'm not drinking. I'm also not pregnant. You guys, we have the pregnancy. The joke is I had a pregnant roommate, and it was a whole thing. It was a mess. And so, but when I do drink, which I will soon probably, my kind of thought was always drink to celebrate. Never drink to forget. Never drink to suppress. Even like life can be shitty, but you can still find those moments to celebrate.
Yep.
Like you failed your test, but maybe the 10 hours you spent studying with a friend, you developed a better relationship with them. And like there's always something good to celebrate. And so it's also a mindset thing of, hey, you know, you have to celebrate the small things in order to keep going. And I've been blessed in that, you know, in my academic career, I've won a lot of things, which that also helps. You know, public recognition is a good indicator that you're probably on a good path.
Yeah.
But it's the small things too. Yeah. So yes, celebrate often.
That's good. I got a couple questions, and I think this one, the next one, I hate that we've gotten to the point where I have to ask this question, but I think it's important to ask it just because I know there's somebody right now, you know, it could be a college, you know, a college dorm, it could be in high school. There's a woman somewhere sitting right now and saying, hey, I don't think I should go in the tech environment because I may not be respected. So for somebody who's in the tech environment and gotten to be around, you know, gotten some experience and some legs growing there, what will be your advice to other women out there who are looking to jump into, you know, in the tech environment and start something of their own? Because I do believe that everybody deserves a place at a table, you know, to shine and showcase their skill set like you're doing yourself right now, and you know, with the help of, you know, your team around. What's your advice to a woman who's right now in high school, senior year of high school, and they're like, hey, I want to do this, but I'm hearing a lot of noises outside and stuff like that?
Yeah, so I'm surprised actually you asked that, but I'm really glad because I've seen this, you're right, a lot. My undergrad was in physics, so there were a lot of classes where it was me and like one other girl. And yes, I've dealt with this a lot. My kind of two ways to look at it is, first, don't use it as an excuse, but as an advantage, right? Like, use it as the motivation to be better than all of the boys. Like, I know y'all are both boys, but like, but there's so many opportunities. I mean, that's one of my favorite words also. Flexibility and opportunities is just, you have to be willing to look for them. And like, I had this a lot in undergrad with internships. People wouldn't even apply to stuff. I'm like, you can't get a job, you can't get a scholarship if you don't even apply. You can't make a connection if you don't show up to an event. Right? And so it's saying, okay, if you really are serious about wanting to do this, like you have to put yourself out there a little bit. You guys mentioned earlier wanting a seat at the table too. Sometimes you're going to be invited to the table, but sometimes you're not. And sometimes you just got to show up and sit down and be at the table. And, you know, if someone's got a problem with that, then that's their problem and not your problem. And we were actually having this conversation earlier in terms of, there are a lot of double standards too with women in tech. And I had a conversation with another co-founder about even just appearance, because I personally love to dress up and it makes me feel confident and want to go out and meet people and do things. But, you know, you watch TV shows like Silicon Valley and you see all like these scrubby dudes in like t-shirts with like no hygiene. And it's just, it's really saying, okay, I might not look or act the way they do, but that's okay, and I'm gonna do it bigger and better. And that's the way I do it, is bigger and better, you know, with all my sparkles and stuff. But it's, I mean, we can evolve. The other thing is also identifying role models and people that you can look up to, because there are people. I wouldn't have said the same thing probably if I was here 20, 30 years ago in terms of women in STEM. But nowadays there's a lot of really awesome, powerful women in STEM, and it's finding those people. Joining a lot of organizations have mentorship programs. Nice. So again, if you don't look for these things, they're like, no one's gonna randomly email you and be like, hey, do you want to like be mentored in STEM? Like, you have to go and be a part of an organization, and they say, hey, we have a mentorship program where you can get matched, you know, with someone more senior, and then all you have to do is say yes, or submit the application, or literally put in your email. And so it's not so much of I don't want to discourage people, but like, if you want to do it, then do it. Again, with the talking, like, oh, I want to be in tech, it's like, then go be in tech.
Take action.
Yes. Yep.
Like he says, just do it.
Yeah.
I mean,
we ain't Nike over here. I got Adidas, so.
I didn't sit with you well.
Interview canceled.
Y'all need some walk and grow shoes.
Exactly. We do. We're going to have our own brand of that at some point. Yeah.
Do a QR code on those babies.
Yeah. We will. I definitely see it to the point where if you want to mark your brand and have that identity there, you have to go that route. So, you know, that's why it was like yesterday when we were talking about the whole arts and stuff like that. I was like, that's the first thing that came to mind, because I see how important, you know, it is for us now, especially with technology just magnifying itself, you know, every day.
Also, people are just lazy. Like, you have to make it as easy as possible.
Simplify things,
and simple, make it accessible, make it easy, and just, you know, at that point, you've done all that you can do, and it's up to them. Yeah.
Now, when you're not working on this, when you're just chilling, what does that look like for you? What would you like to do for fun?
You mean other than a startup and a PhD? I do love to travel, so that's a big thing. I was in DC last weekend, and Atlanta this week, and I'm going to Alaska next week, and then California the next month. And so it's just that's a big thing. I also really like to cook. I eat out at nicer restaurants. That way I will be inspired for what to cook at home. Nice. So kind of there's also a balance in that, right? I don't cook all my food, but I also don't eat out all the time. So, you know, that work-life balance. Big coffee snob too. I'm on the market for a new espresso machine. So, yes. Nice. But yeah, I mean, my sister has a dog. I'm a dog aunt. I'm not the mom. I'm not responsible. So just enjoying life and hanging out with the people. And the cool thing is, in all the, you know, networking and connections I've been making is a lot of those people are now my friends. And so, you know, the networking event you go to that ends at 8:00 turns into dinner and drinks, and you don't get home till 11. And that's just as valuable as the actual event itself sometimes. So.
In terms of, you know, somebody who travels a lot, what is the best experience that you've had over the past, you know, 2 years traveling?
Well, the last 2 years have been COVID. So I have gotten a few trips in. I try to go to California at least once a year. The best thing about growing up and adulthood is
she looks right at me as she said that. Go ahead.
The easy part, is you start to have friends and family everywhere. So I try and plan a lot of my trips around friends and family, and so I'll go somewhere to visit someone or to, you know, do a specific thing, and that's also just a really great time to, you know, build the relationship with those people, and also, you know, be in a new place. And I tell people, I'm like, don't invite me to come visit you unless you're serious, because I will show up on your doorstep. Like, I'll pull out my calendar and be like, all right, flights are cheap here, like, let's make it happen. And so probably the best experience is just spending that time with friends and family and eating good food and talking and just
living life. Living life.
Yep.
Favorite place in Raleigh for food? Or North Carolina in general?
That's not fair, man.
Or there's so many good ones.
But here's the thing. I didn't say that you the best place. I said your go-to, like if you wanted to go somewhere like right now, it's like, oh, I know this place is not going to disappoint.
I'm gonna start with coffee because I need like a second to think about food. Sir Walter. Oh my gosh, downtown Holly Springs. They've got coffee cocktails. It's amazing. Food wise, there are a lot of great spots that source food locally, and I'm trying to think of some of their names. I'm also big on trying new places, so when I eat out a lot, I go to different places every time. So I don't always have a go-to spot necessarily.
Last one that you remember because of a positive experience.
Man, you really got me good with this one.
You answer all the hard
Jeez,
questions.
I know. This is the easiest question about something. Well, it's because everything where I've eaten in the last week has been not in Raleigh,
Gotcha.
so that's why I'm like, wait.
Yeah.
I'm a really big fan. Okay, yes, I know. There's a new spot in Holly Springs. It's a new Vietnamese place that has pho or however you say it. I crave that stuff all the time.
Nice.
It's really good.
Yeah, I heard about it, but I haven't been there.
It's literally, because every time I would crave it, I would Google it, and all the spots were in Raleigh, because I live probably 30 minutes south of Raleigh. And then one day, a new one popped up, 10 minutes away, and it literally opened that week, and I was like, all right, we're going. Yeah. So that's a big one. I like a lot of Asian foods,
nice.
Thai food's a big one, although I'm allergic to peanuts.
Spicy food? You like spicy food?
Decently spicy. I like to enjoy the flavors still.
Thai food can be very spicy sometimes if you get the wrong order.
Yeah, very true. But yeah,
that's awesome. That's for me. Food.
I know. Now it's dinner time.
Yeah, exactly.
I do have one last question for it. The person listening right now, of course, they probably want to find out. Where do they find you? Where do they find SKANZ? Can you guide us through that so that if that person listening can get connected to it?
Yeah, so SKANZ is spelled SKANZ because we're cool like that. SKANZ.io is the website for that. I will send y'all the link to my SKANZ profile that will contain all of the other links and Instagram and all of that jazz for me personally. But SKANZ, if you just Google it, we're on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. We pretty much have ownership of the name. So if you Google us, we're the first one that pops up. So
do you have any anybody that you want to thank through this process that has been helping you, or anything that you want to mention, any question for us? This is your time to shine. If you want to flip it up, if you want to interview us, you can as well. But I just wanted to give you a opportunity.
I just want to know where you're from. Oh wait, you already know where you're from.
Yeah.
I don't know why I was saying that. I was literally been thinking about that all day.
Really?
I was like, I gotta ask him this. I can't forget.
Yeah.
No, just as you guys are growing your podcast, and I'm growing my business. I hope we don't lose touch. Also, again, to all the people listening too, just connect with us.
Right.
That's it. If you made it this far,
Yeah.
I know you. What's your thing? Hit like and subscribe, whatever. But find us on LinkedIn. Schedule that coffee. I will buy coffee for anyone. Literally, if you message me and say let's get coffee, I will buy you coffee. But I don't know who I want to thank. Just everyone who has been open to listening to me talk.
Yeah.
Again, every event and stuff I go to, people generally are really awesome.
That's
and
good.
You don't know that until you meet them.
That's good.
And so just thank you to everyone I've met. And
do you have any last remarks that you want to say to anybody? Or at least for anybody
just
listening?
Show up.
Show up, take
That's
action,
it.
support,
Yeah.
You heard the story, you heard kind of the journey that it takes to be here, and when you get to see the work, appreciate it for what it is, and wherever you find an opportunity to help or even just say thank you, take that chance. Don't it's good to let people know that their presence and their work is being appreciated, because it allows them to then go out there and do more for the community or for people in general. So love each other, and let's help each other shine even more. Yeah, and that's my two takes on that.
Another way to put it is give everybody their flowers while they're alive, right?
Yeah, exactly. You don't want to give it to them when they're gone. Yeah.
I've never heard that before. I've never heard that before.
Yeah, well, that's how
but
we
now
got
I want
ended.
flowers. Where's my flowers?
Well, thank you for coming today.
Of course, thank you
sharing
for
your
having
message.
me. This has been awesome.
And really, man, the focus is just leveling up. Cause I know the life I want, I'm just setting it up. Removing those that's close who try messing it up. Can't wait for champagne toast with the relevant bunch. Like, what's up? Yeah. Like, what you do, homie? What's your vision? How you thinking? How you move, homie? And is you cool, homie? You thinking building, then that's something we could do, homie.